I'm Joe LaMonaco. Welcome to the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour. Right over there is Ruth Row Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at diggingfordeals.com. Hello, Miss Ruth.
Hello, Joe.
It's fall.
It certainly is.
And I must say, I love coming out to visit you in Walworth because that's where the office is. It's never a bad day in Walworth because the trees look nice.
How true.
The geese are in your backyard, and we are here to present some information. It's always good when we come out to talk to Ruth. Now, in the past, we've talked about real estate, and last month we talked about collectibles. Ruth came to me with a topic for this month, and I was like, this seems like something that is very important for a lot of our listeners to know. Whether you are in this situation, whether you are children of older parents, I want you to pay very close attention. We're going to be talking about financial steps for surviving spouses. Miss Ruth, why did you come to me with this topic?
It's a very serious topic, and it's close to my heart because people don't know this, but I have lost two husbands in my life.
I've been married 2 husbands.
I've been married 3 times. I'm happily married now, just for your listeners, but I have 2 late husbands.
Okay.
One of which I lost when I was young, unexpectedly due to an accident. I entered single motherhood at a very awkward time in life. And the other one suffered with cancer for a few years, and we brought him successfully to his eternal life.
I'm sorry that that has happened to you twice, but it has given you a perspective that we want to tap into and talk about. We want to talk about the financial aspect of this. And we do talk a lot about that, finances, on the show. And we're going to talk about it from a surviving spouse perspective because there's so much that happens. You are wrapped up at times in caring for or grieving for an unexpected loss. But life, Ruth,
goes on.
It goes on. I want to just set us up by talking a little bit about the perspective that you have learned over 2 times going through this. And one of them being young and being a single mom at that time, about some of the things that you found on your doorstep that you didn't know were coming or had no idea that you would have to deal with them in that way financially.
Right. That is true. And I can remember as a young mother this is a true story, trying to just get the utility bill put into my name. Mm-hmm. And the utility company refused to do that because I was a woman. And it was only after I shared, now this is going back to the olden days, okay? It was only after I shared that my husband had passed away unexpectedly, they reluctantly helped me. And I learned from that experience that you have to be honest, you have to face the situation, and you have to reach out for the compassion of other individuals. And
and that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. You have to have a team with you.
You have to be wise. Mm-hmm. You have to have a wise and trusted team with you on board.
And what we're going to be doing in part of this is we have brought in a special guest with us. His name is Brian Valenti. He is a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab. Brian, hello. Welcome to the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour. It is good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to be leaning on you for your financial wisdom and advice as we go through some of these steps for surviving spouses. One of the things that Miss Ruth just mentioned is you don't go through this alone. You have to have a team. From your perspective, I just want to start out with a basic general question. What role can a financial advisor play at a time when there are many different factors coming to bear? There are legal factors, there are financial factors, there are personal factors. How do you see your role potentially in helping someone who's just been through a loss start to organize themselves so that they can go through the process of finding their new footing financially?
Yeah, I look at myself and my role as a trusted advisor to the family, and that's established before somebody passes. And when somebody mourns the loss of a loved one for the first time, you don't know how you're going to mourn going into that. Everyone mourns differently. It's a very emotional time. And then you encompass that with all these decisions that you have to make, and you do feel like you're on an island. So I like to be the hub of the wheel to my clients. I should know, or the trusted advisor should know, everything in that client's world. And we should understand what steps need to be taken to get them through this decision-making process, to get reorganized, to get re-engaged in their life. And so you have to lean on that trusted advisor to help you bring you through that process.
Financially, Miss Ruth, how much did you know about where your situation was, who the people you were talking to, sort of where all the money was, just as that one little part of it?
That's a good question, because when you're 20, what do you know when you're a 29-year-old individual and you've lost a spouse? You may have already been married for a period of years. You have a young child or young children. All of a sudden, he's gone. You don't know how you're going to pay the either rent or mortgage that you have. Fortunately, in my case, we had just purchased a home, but that was a crashing responsibility to me at the time.
Did you share with your husband at that time, your first husband, the responsibilities of
course,
knowing
yes,
where the financial
absolutely.
Pinging over to Brian then, do you find that there's no hard and fast answer to this, but do you find that it's among your clients more of a shared responsibility, or that maybe one spouse handles the finance and the other one kind of just looks to them to take the lead and do all the directing?
Yeah, very rarely is it a shared responsibility. A lot of times you'll have a really engaged spouse who's the CFO of the family,
right,
and they control everything. You know, the other spouse trusts them implicitly, which is really important. However, in a time of mourning, if that family member is a CFO, the engaged spouse is the one to pass first, this unengaged spouse feels like they're on an island. They don't know what to do. Right. So I encourage all parties in the family to come together, to collaborate, to understand what it is they have and who to contact and who to call if that engaged spouse happens to pass or become disabled. In
your world, Miss Ruth, you talk about that team, and it's not just financial, it's not just family. Who did you bring to bear for you to help you assemble yourself to
reorient.
Be able, reorient yourself? Who else was part of your team?
You have to start life almost over again. Mm-hmm. And it's important first of all, it's important not to let grief grip you. Grief can grip you, and that's important. And the way you do that is by reaching out to your faith partners. Okay. And that can be very simple. Your pastor, your church members will help you. Just simply reading your faith.
And knowing that you have people who can walk with you, and you may not even know
family.
You may not even know what other assets they could bring to the table until you start to ask those questions. And it's like Wonder Friends or Avengers Assemble. You've got to bring everybody to bear, or at least be open to the fact that I'm a little lost here, and be okay with saying I'm a little lost.
I'm very lost here, and help me get through this. And they will help you. They will direct you. That you have to remember that other people have been through this.
And learn from them.
And learned.
And they have made mistakes, and you will make mistakes. But together, maybe you can minimize some of those mistakes.
Yes.
And what we're talking about on this episode of the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour, 7 financial steps for surviving spouses. How to then pick up the moving train and possibly change tracks and look to not only take care of the business at hand, but then to start planning for the future. There's many things that you can do. We've got Brian Valenti with us. He's a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester, and we're going to tap into his expertise next. All right, we're going to start after the break about just organizing things. Where are important documents stored? It's not just in paper in a lockbox in the house anymore. We're going to deal with that when we return on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour, next on NewsRadio WHAM 1180. I'm Joe LaMonaco. Welcome back to the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on NewsRadio WHAM 1180. We're talking the 7 financial steps for surviving spouses, and we have with Ruth Row Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com, who brought us this topic, and we're so grateful for it because it's a great learning experience for us. Our special guest is Brian Valenti, Vice President and Senior Financial Consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester, and we are going to be tapping into his expertise here. When everything goes sideways, Brian, and you've probably seen this more times in your career than we can ever dive into, I would suspect you have clients that feel like, I don't know where to look, I don't know what to do. How do you start peeling the orange, I guess is probably a best analogy, to be able to start having good, productive conversations with a trusted advisor, with a financial advisor, to know where everything is? It used to be you had every paper in a fire safe in the house. But that's not the case anymore. And with more and more people, maybe you've got a few things, but then a lot of it is in scattered places all over the place. Where do you start getting in on this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to get ahead of it. I like to have clients be organized prior to an event happening. Because like I mentioned earlier, people mourn in different ways and in different times. I want to be the first call after you call your family members. I want my clients to call me to let me know what's going on so I can help guide them properly through this phase of their life that perhaps was unexpected. So being organized is critical to understanding what our next steps are. So if you have a trusted advisor, hopefully they have gotten ahead of this and have helped you organize all your important documents in a certain file. Hopefully they know where all the accounts are located. If not with your institution, what other accounts are there out there? And then that person can help guide you through those next steps. What's priority 1, 2, and 3? You don't have to do it all in day one, right? You just have to know, you just have to prioritize and give that person confidence that everything's going to be okay. I am here locked arms with you to help you get through this.
I think that's a very important thing I want to come back to. You don't have to do it all at once. When you are mourning a spouse, or you're an adult child mourning a parent, and now it is on you to take over the responsibility. Yes, there are things that will need to be accomplished. No, you don't have to accomplish it the day after. And I think it's good that we just want to remind people of that. There are time horizons that are going to come into play here, and we can actually take a breath and maybe a little step back and then let our advisor and our trusted circle of friends help guide us through next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times you'll get the calls like, I have to pay for this funeral. It's 10, 15, 20. Where do I get the money from? Let's take a step back. We've planned for this. You have substantial cash in a money market or at the bank, you can write a check. Get through this period of time. You have access to that because it's a joint account. You both owned it together, and just, your checkbook will continue to work.
Yeah.
So it's going to be okay.
Ms. Ruth, I want to talk about the 2 times that you have faced this and how your perspective may have changed on those financial questions from your late 20-year-old self to the second time you found yourself as a widow, and when you
60-year-old.
As a 60-year-old, and you've got a lot of road and a lot of life experience in between. Maybe you can tell us about the difference from your perspective of those 2 times and what those financial decisions may have been like for you, and how your team that you assembled helped you through those times.
Well, I had been fortunately in financial services all my life by the time I was 60. So I had some basis, not only to know what to do. It always comes as a shock.
Sure, certainly.
Always. And you are immersed in a period of grief. And in my particular case, I had wonderful employees to help me through it. I had family members, again, to help me through it. But there are necessary steps that you need to take, both with real estate, with financial accounts, with insurance.
So you were fortunate you had some financial literacy and background in your career.
In my particular case,
and
yes.
it did, I think, give you a sense of maybe just more confidence.
Yes.
As you were able to do it. So maybe you had some other things in a row. Maybe you had beneficiary items taken care of. You had your account set up. Just as a reminder, and this, I know we talk about this on a lot of financial shows, but it does bear repeating. Getting yourself getting those accounts organized, getting the titling, getting the beneficiary information correct. Brian, just how critical is that to be like, maybe that's one thing you could do today, right here, right now.
Yeah, when it's too late, right? Nobody thinks that they're going to face the inevitable until they do, and then you can't reverse time.
Right.
So it's really important to have the account titling, beneficiaries, have your estate planning documents updated and organized so your desires and your wishes can be executed upon your passing. So that is the most critical part of this whole conversation.
So then as soon as you have notified, and we're going to talk about notifications coming up a little later on in the show, as soon as that happens with an insurance company, a bank, a financial services institution, that they will then go to the surviving spouse as the primary instead of saying, I'm sorry, we can't do anything for you, because I would imagine that does happen as well. You get into a position where nothing has been done, so legally there is nothing that can be done until, say, probate goes through or some other legal proceeding goes through, which could take months or longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Each financial institution is going to have their own rules of what they can say, what they can't say, what their process is to giving you this information. And sometimes you're right. They won't provide it if you're not the beneficiary, if you're not a joint account holder, co-trustee of your trust. So it's really important to have those things organized prior to any event happening.
Miss Ruth.
And a simple item would just to have the passwords, usernames written down in one place ahead of time.
I know that some financial services organizations will actually give you a booklet or something that's very easy for you to write them down, or make your own. Go buy a notebook, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, print it out, but let people know where it is, because it's all well and good if you've gone and done all the documentation. If no one knows where to find it, then it is still, it's not as useful a tool. I'm very grateful that my dad did this for me. He handed me a packet of information. He's like, here's the will, here's where everything is, here's my usernames and passwords. And I'm like, fabulous. Thank you so much for this. What a great piece of information that he was able to hand over to me so that I could be prepared when that day does come, when I do need to get in there. Because of the digital space, I would imagine people are more scattered. Are we more organized or less organized because of our digital footprint?
Less organized.
Really?
Completely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, because to Ruth's point, with the username and passwords, right? And we have an asset inventory booklet that I encourage clients to fill out and keep with those estate planning documents. We all have a computer in our pocket now, so there's a way for Apple and Android phones to have a beneficiary on your phone. So if something were to happen, you can recover the pictures and all the important memories that may be stored on that phone.
I was not aware of that. And what I talked to my dad about, and he didn't have a good answer for this, was that we do two-factor authentication on so many accounts right now. You need that physical device in many cases to be able to unlock something. You don't have it, you're not able to get in regardless of whether you have a username or password or not. Adding another layer. Have the conversations. Whether you are a child of older parents or whether you're talking amongst yourselves in a spousal unit, have the conversations to know where things are and to understand how broad it is. It's not just a question of having things, and titling and having things written down. It may very well be a physical piece of hardware that you need to now. Thank you for that, Brian. I really do appreciate that. I mean, back when you got things started, Miss Ruth, it had to be written down, and then technology, I suspect, has picked up. Do you think, as a result of the things you've learned, you're better prepared for other eventualities, even though you can't ever predict the future?
You cannot predict the future. We know that. It's impossible. So it pays to have individuals, and here's the key word, that you trust.
Yeah. Goes right back to that first point we talked about, assembling that trusted team.
It is individuals that you trust that have been financially responsible, shown to you, whether they're children or individuals, financial individuals that you work with. They have shown to you that they are trustworthy. That's important.
Yeah. Know who your team is, and
know who they are,
and know why you're leaning on them, and have more than a few, because everyone has their own level of expertise. All right, we're up against a break. We're so grateful that we have Brian Valenti here with us on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour. He's a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester. We're talking about financial steps for surviving spouses, and coming back, who do you have to tell? How do you notify when someone has passed? And then what happens as a result of that? We're going to dive into that topic and more when we continue on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour, next on News Radio WHAM 1180. Thank you for staying with us on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Joe LaMonaco, and our topic this month are financial steps for surviving spouses. Along with Ruth Row Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com, our special guest is Brian Valenti, a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester. There is a brand new world for you when you are the surviving spouse. And if you feel prepared, or whether you have no idea where anything is or what you need to do next, assembling your team, your trusted advisors, be they financial, be they legal, be they from your faith community, to help you move through this next phase of your life, to get your feet back under you financially, is going to be very important. And one of the things that, again, this is a complete mystery to me, is when you have someone who passes in your family, be a spouse or a parent, then the death notifications go out. I don't know who is best suited to answer this question, but number one, who gets notified, or who should get notified? And number two, what is it the responsibility of the surviving spouse or family to notify, and how much of it may happen in the background without us? I'm not 100% sure where things go from there.
Yeah, I could take that. So if you're working with a funeral home, they'll make some notifications for you. They'll order the death certificates. Okay. Sometimes you need the original death certificate to inform financial institutions. So order a handful of them. Okay. They're not cheap, but do it so you don't have to go back.
It's something you need to have. Yeah.
They'll notify the Social Security Administration. Now, I still recommend you call to make sure that your benefits continue at the right dollar amount that they should. Okay. But the funeral home will help you with a few of those steps. And then if you do have a trusted advisor in your family to help you with your investments and other financial accounts, notify them. And then perhaps your attorney who did your estate planning documents. Okay. I think those are the three steps that are probably most important, at the onset.
Okay. Was that something that was clear to you, Miss Ruth, when you went through that?
Nothing was ever clear to me.
Okay.
But I did learn that the funeral director is the only one who will help you with the death certificates and realizes that your spouse is no longer with us. Mm-hmm. Everyone else puts a closed door to you until they see the actual certified death certificate. They have to do that because of fraud.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And there's so much legal that gets involved in this. And you fail to realize the barriers that might be up for the protection, and they really are for your protection.
Absolutely.
And it may not seem that way. It may seem that you're getting stonewalled or the runaround, but at the end of the day, that's really what it is about. Between the two times that you have faced this transition financially, do you feel that because of the team you had assembled, maybe the second time that you had to say goodbye to a husband, you felt like it wasn't so much of a, gosh, I had a mountain to climb here? Maybe it was a little easier because of the team that you had assembled with you.
No.
Really?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's always horrible because a blanket of grief descends on you when it actually happens.
Right.
And this person who was part of your life, an intimate part of your life, is no longer there. He's gone. Yeah. He actually doesn't even exist in society. And you're making phone calls, dealing with people. Sometimes you know them, sometimes you don't. That's the reason, as you age, you need a trusted group of professionals surrounding you for when the inevitable occurs.
Okay.
Okay? Now, what happens when I'm not the one that's here and the poor spouse has to deal with it? He may not be as competent, and you have to prepare for that ahead of time.
That was one of the questions that I had. And Brian, I don't know whether you can even answer this or not, but let's say the spouse that passes is the CFO of the family, the one that is a caregiver. Perhaps that other spouse is not mentally able to handle that. Say they've got cognitive decline, and many couples do face this. Children might need to step in. What are they legally obligated or prepared to even do? There may even be blocks to that if it hasn't been set up already for power of attorney transfers or titling of accounts to say, okay, if it's not you and it can't be you, here's the secondary, and at least somebody's name's on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important, why you have to have your estate documents in good order and updated per your desire and communicate that. I always talk about having a family meeting with my clients, whether it's during the holidays or sometime when everyone's together. You know, some people are really hold their investments and their dollars close to the vest. So you don't have to tell your children what the assets you have. Some people do, some people don't. But tell them who is responsible for what. Show them where those documents are. So if the durable power of attorney needs to step in because mom or dad isn't able to act when that one spouse passes, they understand that what their role is.
Right. And understand that they can also step into that role and they're not going to be blocked from that role, because legally, to the protection of those people who the assets are going to pass, it has to be in writing. Yeah. It has to be in writing. Miss Ruth.
And what happens if we both go together?
Oh, boy.
Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, then can you imagine our children having to deal with it if we have not prepared properly?
Exactly. And if you've not prepared, then it becomes it's an even bigger hill. It's two hills altogether that you're going to have to start vaulting over. In this section here, I also do want to talk about survivor benefits here a little bit. Okay, so we've talked about notification, and Social Security may be one of those places where your funeral director can help with notification. But to your point, Miss Ruth, as you mentioned, you want to follow up. And let's talk about those benefits and those things that you just need to make a phone call to make sure that they are transferred and continuing on as you anticipate.
Well, let's hope that all you have to do is make a phone call.
Right.
But yes, the surviving spouse does have to make that phone call to Social Security, assuming we're over the Social Security, there's dependents, insurance companies, employers or union halls, veterans benefits if you're dealing with a spouse. These are all huge bureaucracies.
Yeah.
And we have the responsibility. We may need help. The help may not be there. It may not be there. But it's a bridge that we have to cross.
Mm-hmm. With that power of attorney, though, if there is a surviving spouse, will the power of attorney potentially cover it for a adult child to step in and help with those calls? Or does it have to be the surviving spouse? And only if there is some issue there, can the child then step in?
Yeah, it just depends on who the institution is and what the situation is. Sometimes it might be the executor responsible for administering the estate for the deceased spouse.
Okay.
They may be the one that has to make those phone calls. But I think the phone call to notify the institution and provide a death certificate is the absolute first step.
Okay.
And then you're going to learn what their rules are. And then each institution say, here's who we can talk to, here's what we need, and then you can take those next steps.
You're going to learn so much in a short period of time, I would suspect, and you're going to have to go from a standstill to a run in some of these issues very quickly. And we're not talking about time deadlines, because to Brian's point from earlier in the show, you don't have to solve all of this on day one, but you do have to make sure that you get yourself up to speed as rapidly as possible, and call in all of those different people on your team, your financial consultant, your lawyer, your community, your family, those people that can come to bear Locate those documents. Know where the digital footprint is. Have those things not necessarily in a pile in front of you, but know where they are so that you can go and get them when you do need to do that. And then rely on the people that are going to be there for the service providing, especially your funeral director, especially the executor of a will or whoever drafted your estate plan. Let them help you navigate those things that may be beyond you. And before we take our final break, I just want to let you know that sometimes there are surprises that you don't know are coming. What can you do to help alert yourself to the fact that there may be a curveball headed your way right at your head and you don't even know it? Ruth Row Campbell is here with us from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com. Brian Valenti is our special guest. He is he's a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab. We are talking about financial steps for surviving spouses, and we will continue our conversation next on News Radio WHAM 1180. We are back to wrap things up on this edition of the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Joe LaMonaco, along with Ruth Row Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at digginfordeals.com, who brought us this great topic because she has been through this twice, as she has told us throughout this show, about financial steps for surviving spouses. And our guest is Brian Valenti, a vice president and senior financial consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester, and we have been benefiting from his expertise. Ms. Ruth, I want to go back here. Before we pick up our last couple of topics, people in this survivor state might be worried about, well, where am I going to get the money for any of this? How am I going to continue to get an income? And that goes back to those survivor benefits that we talked about, and you wanted to give people a reminder on sort of where things stand and what they should be knowing about how their future financially is going to progress as far as income is concerned.
And it can come as a shock that there are these benefits. The surviving spouse is in a period of grief, and knowing all of a sudden that you qualify for a veteran benefit or a Social Security benefits based on your husband's income or an insurance settlement. Or there's a piece of real estate that's going to be sold and is marketable and can be turned into cash. These are comforting things for a surviving spouse.
And that's why, as part of these steps that we've talked about, is filing for those survivor benefits, alerting Social Security, alerting insurance companies, veterans associations, union organizations, employers, letting them know what the situation is, and then letting those processes play out. And to Brian's point, again, I've hit on it a couple of times, but it bears repeating, it's going to take time. Allow it to take time. And don't allow these financial things that we're talking about to take precedent over the grief process. Allow yourself the time and the space. Don't say, well, you know what, I'm not going to grieve until all this stuff is put away. No, I would suggest, and this is my opinion, take the time to grieve in the here and now, and then focus on the things you need to as you need to. And this is a point that Ruth brought up is in one of our breaks here that's actually really very important. And it comes to understanding your new financial picture. Brian, filing a credit report might not be a bad idea so that you kind of have a better idea as to what other people outside of your sphere think is open and active. Maybe you know about it, maybe you don't.
Yeah, any type of debt instrument that you may have will populate on that report. Credit cards, home equity line of credits, things of that nature, mortgages. Mm-hmm. So you need to know, how do I keep paying these bills?
Yeah.
And what are the bills that I need to pay?
Even
so that's a
parking tickets.
Yeah. Well, and Ruth, you brought this up earlier, is that there may be something on there that a surviving spouse doesn't know about.
Exactly.
Yes.
I would imagine very common.
Yeah,
very common.
That you've seen this before, that people say, wait a minute, I didn't know he bought a fill in the blank. I don't know she had a fill in the blank. And then you have to wonder about, well, now what do I do about that? And when it comes to how a spouse's decisions might impact a surviving spouse's credit, from a financial standpoint, what can be done at that point? Do you have to then work with each individual, say, creditor or financial institution to try to work out how this is going to now be transferred to that surviving spouse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Everyone's going to have their own rules to the road. And this may be your first time going through this. However, it's not the institution's first time. So they're all going to have a process.
Okay.
It's all going to be different, but they've been through it before. So we just have to make those phone calls and understand that.
Can a financial advisor be a tool that someone can use to help navigate this process?
Yeah, I always offer to my clients going through a case right now. There's a lot of things out there. I said we will call these institutions together.
Okay.
We'll understand what the next steps are. We'll create a spreadsheet and go one by one until all of them are completed.
I think that's a very interesting point that you can offer, and you do offer, to be on the call with someone instead of someone, the surviving spouse, making the call and then coming back to you and reporting on it. Because if you've ever played a game of telephone as a kid, you know that some information gets left off. That if you do grant that financial professional the permission to be on the call, and that's very simple to do, I would suspect, that they can hear it and be able to answer questions that may be phrased in a way that you don't quite understand. You don't get the terminology. You don't understand exactly what you should or should not do. That can be a valuable thing to help you organize what needs to happen so that you can tick through those debts and then get them settled to your benefit, or at least to get them settled, period.
And this is exactly the reason why you need a trusted individual that can help you. Not everyone has that available.
Right. And that's where lean on your friends if you don't. Maybe you don't have a financial advisor. Maybe your financial advisor was your age when you started working with them and they retired and have left you behind, and you don't know the person who took over because they're younger and you haven't met them yet. Maybe you haven't worked with them or had a review yet, so you don't know who it is. Changing gears financially can be traumatic, and meeting someone for the first time in a grief situation can also be kind of traumatic, for them as well. So I guess this goes to our last point, and I want to spend some time talking about moving forward. That's tough to do fearlessly.
You need at least one person, an attorney, a banker, someone with common sense who can actually interview anyone else that may or may not be trustworthy.
Right. Have someone go with you. It's like taking someone to a doctor appointment, Sometimes you do need that, And I would suspect, Brian, that you may have even seen this, where someone would be like, look, I don't even know what questions to ask of you. I'm interviewing you. You've been my financial advisor. Well, you were my spouse's financial advisor, and I was along for the ride, but now I'm interviewing you for the very first time. I've brought somebody with me here to sit in on this conversation just to make sure I'm not getting steamrolled, I guess, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah, my business, in my opinion, is all about meeting of the hearts before meeting of the minds.
Okay.
So we're going to have that discussion first and foremost about what's important to you, who you are, where you are, how I can make this as smooth and seamless as possible. Let me do the hard work. Let me take all that's on your plate. Let me remove that, and I will help walk down this path with you so you can go more and handle all the other family dynamics that come with it.
Because at the end of the day, Miss Ruth, it is about what you're experiencing from a grief perspective. And as someone who has had more than their fair share of experience in this in their lifetime already, I think that's a great place to land the plane, is to allow yourself to experience, as a surviving spouse, the grief that comes with that, be it unexpected or you've seen someone decline over years. It doesn't change the end result.
No, it doesn't. And it's always totally unexpected. But there is a flip side. Okay. And you do come out of it.
Yeah.
And life can be better. Like me, I remarried.
Yeah.
And isn't that great?
You remarried, you became an entrepreneur, you've built a business, you've raised a family, you cared for 2 husbands, now a third, and you've come out stronger because at the end of the day, allow yourself, I think, a little bit to be treated like the queen you are.
But I have a team of trusted individuals.
Exactly. So we want to recap Miss Ruth's 7 financial steps for surviving spouses. Number 1, have that team of professionals. Keep them close. Tell them what's happening. Tell them how you're feeling. And if you don't understand something, or if you have a question about it, ask it. Or let them help you ask it. Get those documents in order, be they digital or be they paper. Know where they are. Get those passwords set up. Check your phone. Can you can you make sure that beneficiary information on your device is there, be it Apple or Android? As Brian mentioned, you can do that as well. Look into that. Titling of accounts, beneficiary information, notifying your institutions upon death. Your funeral director can be of help with that. The executor of a will or a legal representative can be of help with that. File for those survivor benefits, Social Security, insurance, employer benefits, veterans benefits. There are a list that's only a small list. There could be a lot others there. Know that you have a new financial picture. Maybe running a credit report is a good thing to give yourself some information on what your financial picture is going to look like. And then, as you process everything that you've been through, no matter if it's been a few months or a few years, know that you can move forward fearlessly, and you can find a new footing, and you can find a way to be on your own and be financially secure and independent. Miss Ruth, final thoughts.
But not alone. You're on your own, but you're not alone.
All right, put that one on a bumper sticker. That is Ruth Row Campbell from Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals at DiggingForDeals.com, who brought us this great topic, and we want to thank her very much for doing that. We want to thank Brian Valenti, Vice President and Senior Financial Consultant with Charles Schwab in Rochester. Brian, thank you so much for your expertise.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
In the meantime, if you want to reach out to Ruth, if you find yourself in these kind of situations, be it for real estate or be it for any reason, you go to DiggingForDeals.com, DIGGIN, fordeals.com. Reach out to Ruth Row Campbell and the team here at Rowe Realty Auctions and Appraisals, and they would be happy to offer you their expertise as you move forward. Miss Ruth will be back with us next month for another installment. Until then, I'm Joe LaMonaco. Thanks for spending time with us this weekend on the Truth from Ruth Radio Hour on News Radio WHAM 1180.